Take a quiet moment and really notice what is happening inside you. Something has begun to change, and it is not waiting for some distant future to arrive. It is happening now, beneath the surface of your ordinary life, in a way that may be subtle but is no less real. What once felt far away is beginning to feel closer, lighter, and more certain. This is not empty optimism or wishful thinking. It is the law responding to the inner shift that has already taken place within you. The instant you accepted that your desire already belonged to you, everything began adjusting around that decision. The invisible world always moves first, and the visible world follows afterward. You are no longer standing on the sidelines waiting for life to change. You are watching life come into harmony because you are no longer the same person who lived in doubt and uncertainty. You have stepped into a version of yourself that naturally expects wonderful outcomes. And when your expectations transform, your experience of reality begins to transform with them. There comes a quiet turning point in every person's journey, and it is rarely marked by applause or dramatic announcements. The outside world may appear exactly the same for a while, yet everything has already changed where it matters most. You may still wake up in the same home, work at the same job, look at the same numbers in your bank account, and face the same familiar circumstances. But the person observing those conditions is no longer the same. That single difference changes everything. Your future is never determined by appearances alone. It is shaped by the state of consciousness from which you interpret those appearances. The moment you stopped pleading with life, stopped fearing the future, stopped obsessing over how things would happen, and instead accepted that your desire was already fulfilled, you entered a completely different state of being. That state is the true creative force. It is the cause, while everything happening around you is simply the delayed effect. Life is not happening against you or even to you. It is unfolding through you. Every conversation, every opportunity, every encounter reflects the identity you accept as your own. When you believed you were stuck waiting, life reflected more waiting. When uncertainty filled your mind, confusion appeared in your experiences. But now something has shifted. There is a calm confidence replacing the old anxiety. You are no longer desperate for evidence before you believe, and you are no longer searching everywhere for signs. Instead, there is a quiet certainty growing inside you, a knowing that what has already been accepted inwardly must eventually become visible outwardly. That is where true momentum begins. The outer world behaves like an echo, repeating whatever has already been impressed upon your consciousness. When you consistently remain in the feeling that your wish has already been fulfilled, that impression reaches the deeper levels of your mind. And once that happens, a new reality begins forming. At first, you may not notice obvious changes, but unseen adjustments are already taking place. Conversations are unfolding behind the scenes. Opportunities are being prepared. People are moving into your path without realizing why they suddenly feel inspired to act. You do not need to manipulate events or force outcomes, because force belongs to doubt. Confidence does not struggle. When you truly know something is yours, you stop pushing and simply remain faithful to your inner assumption. Think about a seed planted in rich soil. It never digs itself up to see whether it is growing. It remains still because its nature is to grow. Your assumption works the same way. It unfolds through quiet certainty. Once the inner shift happens, progress often speeds up because resistance begins to disappear. Resistance is simply the disagreement between what you desire and what you secretly believe is possible. The moment those two become one, movement becomes smooth and natural. Notice how your behavior changes when you genuinely believe something belongs to you. Your posture becomes more relaxed, your voice becomes steadier, your reactions become healthier. Situations that once felt like rejection begin to look like redirection, and delays begin to reveal themselves as preparation. Nothing outside may have changed yet, but the state from which you experience life has completely transformed, and that alone creates an entirely different reality. Protect this new state carefully. Do not return to the old conversations you once repeated in your mind. Refuse to replay stories of failure, disappointment, or struggle, because the past only survives when you continue giving it your attention. Instead, place your focus on the reality you have already chosen within, and feed that assumption instead of feeding old memories. You are not trying to become someone different. You are simply occupying a different state of consciousness. Every state that is consistently occupied eventually becomes visible in the outer world. The secret has never been effort. It has always been persistence. Remain persistent in the feeling, persistent in your identity, and persistent in your quiet knowing. If moments of doubt appear, There is no need to fight them. Simply return to the end result. Return again to the version of yourself who already possesses everything you desire. Ask yourself how that version thinks each day. How does that person speak? How do they react to uncertainty? They move through life with stability, peace, and confidence because they no longer question whether their desire will arrive. They know it already belongs to them. That certainty is creative power in action. The shift has already taken place inside you, and you would not feel this growing sense of momentum if it had not. Trust that inner feeling. Continue strengthening it. Live from it every single day. Soon, what now exists only within will appear in your visible experience. And when it finally does, it will seem so natural that others may think it happened by chance. But you will understand where it truly began. It all started the moment your inner world changed. The inner self is always the cause, while the outer world is only the effect. Change the cause, and the effect must eventually follow. Many people unknowingly make the same mistake. They spend their lives moving toward their dreams instead of living from the place where those dreams are already fulfilled. They keep reaching, hoping, and waiting, treating their desires as something distant. But desire was never meant to remain far away. It was meant to be accepted as already real. Once you truly understand this principle, everything begins to shift. You stop struggling to become someone worthy and begin expressing the person who already is. You stop asking when your life will change and start living as though the change has already happened. Living from the end simply means identifying with the version of yourself who has already received the desire. This is not denial or pretending, it is a conscious choice of identity. Every possible version of you already exists as a state of consciousness. The successful version, the peaceful version, the abundant version, and the fulfilled version are all available now. Your only task is to choose which one you will occupy consistently, because the state you repeatedly live from is the life that eventually becomes your reality. The version of you who is deeply loved already exists. The version who enjoys financial freedom already exists. The version who feels secure, peaceful, and completely confident is available right now. Living from the end means stepping into that version inwardly and remaining there until it feels like your natural reality. Ask yourself one simple question. If everything I desired were already accomplished, how would I honestly feel? Not what would I pretend to show other people, but what would I experience privately when no one else is around? You would probably feel relieved, calm, thankful, and grounded. There would be a quiet sense of stability. You would not be rushing to prove anything or desperately searching for reassurance. The fulfilled version of you does not chase evidence because that version already expects life to unfold in perfect order. The moment you occupy that inner position, something extraordinary begins to happen. Time itself seems to lose its grip. The future no longer feels distant because in your mind and in your spirit, you have already arrived there. The outer world is simply moving toward the reality you have already accepted within, and it has no choice but to do so because life continually reflects the state you consistently occupy. When you keep living toward your dream, you continue placing it somewhere ahead of you. But when you begin living from it, you bring it into your present experience. There is a tremendous difference between saying, "I am becoming successful," and saying, "I am successful." The first keeps you in the process of waiting. The second establishes success as part of your identity. Once that identity shifts, your perception changes as well. You begin recognizing opportunities that were always there but previously escaped your attention. You handle situations with greater confidence. Your conversations carry more certainty. Your thoughts naturally come from abundance instead of limitation. This is not about forcing yourself to think positively every second of the day. It is about changing who you believe yourself to be. Identity shapes perception, and perception creates experience. If you continue seeing yourself as someone struggling to reach success, life will continue reflecting struggle. But when you genuinely identify as the person who already embodies the outcome, your world begins arranging itself to match that self-image. The secret is allowing the desired reality to feel ordinary. Your fulfilled life should feel natural rather than dramatic or unbelievable. If your goal feels too distant to accept immediately, gently bridge the gap. Instead of trying to leap from "nothing is working" to "everything is perfect," allow yourself to embrace the feeling that everything is improving faster than ever. Stay with that feeling until your desired reality feels completely reasonable. Let it become familiar rather than extraordinary. Do not judge your progress by what your physical senses currently show you. Today's circumstances are simply reflections of previous assumptions. They are echoes of thoughts you have already outgrown. If you measure your future by what you see today, you remain connected to yesterday's identity. Instead, stay loyal to the unseen reality you have already chosen. The invisible state is always the cause. The visible world is only its effect. Living from the end also means refusing to let temporary appearances control your emotions. When something unfolds differently than expected, you no longer panic. Ask yourself how the fulfilled version of you would respond. That version would remain calm because it already knows everything is unfolding in its favor. So choose that response now. Begin thinking from completion instead of uncertainty. Notice how powerful this becomes. You are no longer waiting for life to transform you. You are becoming the transformation itself. You are no longer asking whether you deserve your desire. You are accepting it as part of your identity. Identity is creative. Whatever you consistently claim yourself to be eventually finds expression in your experience. At first, the change may feel almost invisible. Continue anyway. Whenever your mind slips back into thoughts like, "I don't have it yet," gently guide yourself back to the truth you have chosen. It is already done. Not as empty repetition, not as something you are trying to force yourself to believe, simply as the reality you have decided to accept. With consistency, that new acceptance becomes stronger than every old belief. Once it becomes dominant, the outer world begins changing with remarkable speed. Someone who truly lives from the end carries themselves differently. They speak differently. They make different decisions. Their confidence is quiet rather than boastful. Their patience is steady rather than anxious. Their expectation is peaceful instead of forceful. That is the state where rapid alignment naturally occurs. You never receive what you merely wish for. You experience what you consistently know yourself to be. So become it now. Walk through life as though everything has already been settled. Think as though the outcome is secure. Feel as though your desire belongs to you naturally. Then watch how quickly your world begins reflecting the version of you who no longer waits. Everything changed the moment the end became accepted within you. Even now, movement is taking place beyond what your eyes can detect. It is more real than appearances because it began in consciousness first. The instant you accepted the feeling of your wish fulfilled, a precise sequence quietly started unfolding. Nothing about it is random, nothing is accidental. This unfolding is the natural chain of events leading you from your current appearance to the reality you have already embraced within yourself. Many people expect transformation to arrive in one dramatic moment. They wait for spectacular signs, life-changing announcements, or obvious miracles. Yet real creation usually begins quietly. It often appears logical, ordinary, even insignificant. That is why so many overlook it. They search for something extraordinary, while extraordinary change hides inside ordinary experiences. A surprising conversation, a postponed plan, an unexpected idea, a chance encounter, a closed door that later reveals a better path. None of these events are interruptions. Each one becomes part of the journey after your new state has been impressed upon consciousness. Understand this clearly. Once the destination has been accepted inwardly, the path begins creating itself. You do not need to design every step. In fact, trying to control every detail often creates unnecessary resistance. The deeper intelligence responding to your assumptions sees possibilities far beyond what your conscious mind can calculate. It knows which people need to move. It knows which circumstances must change. It knows the perfect timing. Your responsibility is not to manage every event. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the end. There will be moments when the unfolding makes little sense. Something may happen that appears unrelated to your desire. Something may even seem to contradict everything you believe is happening. Do not rush to judge those moments. Very often, the bridge includes experiences that seem inconvenient before their true purpose becomes clear. A rejection can redirect you towards something far greater. A delay can place you exactly where you need to be at the perfect time. An unexpected conversation can introduce opportunities you never imagined. If fear becomes your response, you temporarily leave the state you selected. But if you remain calm and quietly remind yourself, "This is also leading me forward," you stay connected to the unseen movement already taking place. This unfolding does not require constant effort. It requires trust. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up every day to check whether it has started growing. You trust the unseen process beneath the surface. Your assumption works the same way. Once it has been planted in consciousness, invisible rearrangements immediately begin. People may suddenly feel inspired to contact you. Important decisions may be made in places you never enter. New opportunities may be prepared without your knowledge. Every one of those events responds to the state you consistently occupy. The speed of this unfolding depends largely upon your stability. If you repeatedly replace your assumption with doubt, momentum slows because your attention keeps returning to the old story. But when you remain steady, even during periods when nothing appears to be changing, everything begins accelerating beneath the surface. Remember that this unfolding is not separate from you. It moves through your own intuition, your ideas, and your quiet inner guidance. You may suddenly feel inspired to visit a certain place, reach out to someone, begin a new project, or take a simple action that seems unrelated. Never underestimate those gentle impulses. Very often, they are the next step leading you naturally toward the reality you have already accepted as your own. When those quiet inner nudges appear, trust them instead of analyzing every detail. They are part of the natural unfolding that follows the state you have chosen, and they do not feel dramatic because they come from the version of you that already lives in the fulfilled reality. The journey is rarely forceful. Most of the time, it feels completely ordinary. You will not feel as though life is pushing you toward your destiny. Instead, you will simply feel as though you are living another normal day. Yet beneath those ordinary moments, everything is gradually falling into place. One day you will pause, look back, and recognize how perfectly every piece connected. The delays that once frustrated you will suddenly make sense. The detours that seemed unnecessary will reveal their purpose. The unexpected events you questioned will prove to have been essential steps. What once appeared random will reveal itself as carefully arranged. And understanding this brings an incredible sense of peace. You stop arguing with temporary appearances. You stop demanding immediate evidence that everything is working. Instead, you observe life with quiet confidence, knowing that movement continues even when your eyes cannot yet see the complete picture. That certainty is real strength. The unfolding is happening now, not someday in the future. Every hour contains movement. Every day carries new alignment. Even when the surface appears unchanged, deeper adjustments are taking place where they matter most. Remain faithful to the reality you have already accepted within yourself. Continue thinking from the fulfilled state. Continue feeling as though it has already happened. Allow each next step to appear naturally. You do not need to understand every detail. You do not need to know the exact timing. You only need to remain loyal to the person you have chosen to become. Once the state has been selected, the path begins revealing itself automatically, and it is already carrying you forward. The greatest obstacle to fulfillment is rarely circumstances, other people, or timing. It is the old story you continue telling yourself. The identity you repeat inside your own mind becomes the experience you repeatedly live. If you truly want your life to move forward with greater ease, you must release that old story completely. Listen carefully to what that old story sounds like. Nothing ever works out for me. I've already tried. Success takes forever. People always let me down. Money never stays. These are not simply passing thoughts. They are identities, and identity always shapes experience. As long as you continue identifying with the version of yourself who struggled, waited, or failed, life will continue reflecting that familiar version back to you. You cannot fully step into a new reality while emotionally reliving the previous one. Many people say they desire change while quietly remaining loyal to old disappointments. They talk about new possibilities, yet continue rehearsing old defeats. They claim they believe, but repeatedly revisit memories that directly oppose the future they want. That inner division slows everything down, not because the creative law fails, but because the assumption never becomes consistent. Releasing the old story does not mean pretending difficult experiences never happened. It simply means refusing to let them define who you are today. Your past has only the influence you continue giving it. Every time you replay an old failure with emotion, you strengthen its place within your consciousness. Whatever remains active within consciousness naturally seeks expression again. But when you gently remove your attention from those memories, they gradually lose their power. Just as a fire fades without fuel, old patterns weaken when they are no longer fed with emotional energy. That is why complete release matters. Holding on to even a small part of the old identity keeps the cycle alive. You cannot genuinely identify as successful while secretly introducing yourself as someone who never receives support. You cannot fully embrace abundance while constantly repeating stories about financial struggle. You cannot expect peaceful relationships while continually identifying with betrayal and disappointment. Choose your identity carefully. Ask yourself a better question. Who am I now? Not who was I. Not what happened to me. Who am I today? The moment you consciously choose a new self-concept, protect it. Your mind naturally wants to return to familiar patterns because repetition feels comfortable. But repetition is exactly what must change. Whenever the old story tries to return, quietly replace it. Do not fight it, do not fear it. Simply decide, I am no longer that version of myself. Take a moment to feel what those words truly mean. The previous version of you interpreted life differently. That version reacted from fear, expected disappointment, and thought from limitation. But you are not required to continue living from that identity. At any moment, you are free to choose another state. The instant you genuinely release the old story, everything begins flowing with greater ease because the inner conflict disappears. You are no longer divided between who you were and who you wish to become. You become united in your present identity, and unity creates tremendous power. Notice how much lighter you feel when you stop replaying yesterday's problems. Notice how peaceful you become when you stop defining yourself by old limitations. That feeling of lightness is alignment. That quiet peace is creative authority. You do not need anyone else's approval before accepting your new identity. You do not need permission. Real transformation always begins within, and once it is firmly established inside you, the outer world gradually reflects it. Even if people around you continue seeing you through the lens of your past, you are not required to accept their version of you. People eventually respond to the identity you consistently occupy. Remain faithful to your new story long enough, and their expectations begin changing as well. The world does not determine who you are, you do. If you continue repeating the story of delay, life will continue reflecting delay. If you continue repeating the story of struggle, life will continue reflecting struggle. But when you consistently think, feel, and live from the story of ease, steady progress, and favorable outcomes, life naturally reorganizes itself to match that assumption. Releasing the old story is not denying your past. It is recognizing that your past is not required to become your future. You are not your previous reactions. You are not your previous outcomes. You are the one choosing your state right now. When you completely let go of the old identity, when you stop defending it, explaining it, or returning to it, something remarkable begins happening. Momentum builds. Movement becomes faster. What once felt blocked starts flowing naturally, because there is no longer an inner voice arguing against the reality you have chosen. Leave the old story behind completely. Do not carry reminders of an identity you have already outgrown. Step fully into the person you have decided to be. Then allow reality to confirm that choice in its own perfect way. Eventually, every assumption reaches a point where progress no longer feels slow or uncertain. There comes a moment when it stops feeling like something you are waiting for and starts feeling completely inevitable. There comes a point where progress no longer feels slow and uncertain, but quietly inevitable. Before that moment arrives, everything may seem almost unchanged on the surface. Yet beneath it, momentum is building, alignment is strengthening, and circumstances are beginning to rearrange themselves to match the identity you have accepted within. This is often how manifestation unfolds, not as a sudden miracle from nowhere, but as a gradual inner shift that eventually becomes impossible to ignore. Real change usually happens in stages before it appears all at once, much like water warming on a stove. For a long time, every degree seems insignificant, and then suddenly it reaches its boiling point. The transformation looks instant, but it was prepared by everything that came before. Your life follows the same pattern. For a while, the outer world may appear exactly as it always has, but every time you remain faithful to your chosen state, every time you refuse to return to your former identity, and every time you continue living from the end instead of waiting for proof, you move closer to a threshold. Once that threshold is crossed, visible change can happen with remarkable speed. Expect this not with anxious excitement or restless anticipation, but with quiet confidence, because the fulfilled version of you does not feel shocked by success. That version simply expects life to reflect the assumptions it consistently holds. Expectation itself is creative. If you constantly expect struggle, your mind prepares for obstacles. If you expect delays, you unconsciously prepare yourself to wait. But when you naturally expect a breakthrough, your entire body begins relaxing into certainty. You carry yourself differently. You speak with greater confidence. You think from completion instead of uncertainty. You stop asking whether it will happen because you already know it is unfolding. Many people unknowingly expect disappointment, searching for signs that something will go wrong. and mentally rehearsing worst-case scenarios until those expectations begin shaping their experiences. But when you begin expecting favorable outcomes, when you quietly trust that life is working behind the scenes for your benefit, your perspective changes. You start recognizing small signs of progress that once went unnoticed. You interpret situations with wisdom instead of fear. You respond with calm instead of panic. That inner stability allows change to happen much more naturally. A breakthrough never arrives because you force it. It arrives because the fulfilled reality has become normal inside you. Once your desired life feels like a natural part of your identity rather than an impossible fantasy, there is very little resistance left for the outer world to reflect. The mirror becomes clear. There may come a day when you receive the phone call you hoped for, an unexpected opportunity appears, a conversation changes everything, or circumstances align so perfectly that they seem impossible to explain. When that moment arrives, resist the urge to react with disbelief. Instead of saying, "I can't believe this happened," quietly remind yourself, "Of course it happened. Everything has been leading here." The visible breakthrough may appear sudden, but it began long before your eyes could see it. Every time you return to your chosen state, every time you refuse to entertain fear, and every time you identified with the version of yourself who already possessed the outcome, you were preparing that moment. There is something else worth remembering. When your breakthrough finally arrives, it often feels surprisingly effortless. There may be no dramatic struggle, no overwhelming chaos, just a quiet settling into place that makes you wonder why you spent so much time worrying. That sense of ease is not an accident. It is evidence that your inner world had already aligned. Do not become afraid when life begins moving quickly. Sometimes, people finally receive what they have desired only to question whether it is real, searching for hidden problems and worrying that something must go wrong. But remember why everything began moving. You chose change. You accepted change. Now allow yourself to receive it without resistance. The stronger your inner conviction becomes, the faster life often rearranges itself around that conviction. As momentum builds, remain steady. Stay grounded in gratitude. Remain peaceful. The fulfilled version of you never rushes. It trusts the unfolding without needing to control every detail. Sometimes your transformation brings even more than you originally imagined. When your identity changes, you do not simply create one different outcome. You begin changing the overall direction of your life. Fresh opportunities appear, meaningful relationships develop, unexpected paths become available. Doors you never knew existed quietly begin opening. Perhaps that is why you sense something significant approaching. It is not simply one event, but an entirely new chapter becoming your normal experience. Continue expecting good news. Continue assuming steady progress. Continue walking through life as though your breakthrough has already been arranged, because in consciousness, it already has. You do not need to know the exact day or predict the exact hour. Your responsibility is simply to remain loyal to certainty. The shift is no longer just a possibility, it becomes the natural consequence of the identity you consistently occupy. When it finally arrives, it may feel both surprising and completely familiar, almost as though life has stepped into the reality you first created within yourself. So remain open, remain ready. Allow the visible transformation to reveal what has been quietly developing beneath the surface all along. Take a moment to notice how far you have already come. There was a time when uncertainty guided your thinking, when doubt seemed louder than confidence, and when discouragement felt more convincing than hope. Now notice what has changed. You are calmer, more patient, less desperate, more grounded, more certain of who you are becoming. That quiet certainty is the true signal. The outer world never leads the process, it follows. Every time you chose faith instead of fear, every time you returned to the feeling that your desire was already fulfilled, and every time you refused to accept temporary appearances as the final truth, you strengthen the unfolding. Nothing is assembling by accident. Everything is responding to the state you continue choosing. Remain faithful to the end. Do not return to yesterday's story. Expect the breakthrough, because when your inner identity remains consistent, the outer world eventually reflects it with remarkable precision. What is coming will not feel foreign to your deeper self. It will feel natural. It will feel deserved. It will feel inevitable. Because the moment you truly believed, the journey had already begun. Thank you for spending these moments here. and choosing to strengthen your faith instead of your fear. Carry this understanding with you throughout your day. Whenever doubt tries to return, gently come back to the truth you have already accepted. The creative power has never existed outside of you. It has always begun within. Stay aligned with that knowing. Remain steady. Remain certain. And remember that something beautiful is already unfolding, even before your eyes can fully recognize it. Everything is finding its place, and every day brings you closer to the reality you have already chosen within.